Hello, men. Hello, Mgtows. Asexuality is the normal position. Let's give an analogy in story form. Bob is working on his car. He's wrenching on it, not thinking about much, but working on his car. His friend Jeff walks up and says, "Bob, wrenching the car? You can do that to a woman. You know, kind of wrench on her, stick it on there and wrench on her." Bob says to Jeff, "Jeff, can you keep your gut mind out of the gutter for a few minutes while we fix the car?" Bob was taking an asexual position. Jeff was taking a sexualized position, which was an imposition. Impositions often come in subtle ways. Bob was in his gender studies class in college, explaining how he was fixing the car. Janet, the local feminist, said, "You should have got a woman to help you. Things would have went smoother. She would have wrenched your nuts." Bob said, "I wasn't thinking that way." Both Janet and Jeff were making sexual implications, thus sexually harassing Bob. See, asexuality is the default position, and it's normal. Asexuality is often considered an abnormal position, but in reality, in real life, sexualizing things that are not sexualized is an abnormal position of deviance. Such biases are often revealed not only in the asexual community, but to prejudiced in researchers, in society, and most of society more generally. In this case, some people are prejudiced against others who inflict no harm on others. Asexuals are biased against, even though they inflict no harm on others. Asexuals are disliked not for doing something, but are disliked for being consistent with prevalent norms. This tells us a great deal about some of the underpinnings of outgroup dislike and human nature more generally. Mgtows often rely on non-sexual positions or asexual positions in conversation and chat. Abnormal people often sexualize the position of gender studies. It's a false equivocation of gender to sex, and it shows a real sexual entitlement with men and women. The anti-asexual bias at its core seems to boil down to what Herek in 2010 refers to as the differences in deficient models of sexual orientation. By deviating from a typical average or normal sexual interest, sexual minorities are considered substandard and thus targeted for disdain or prejudiced. Contrary to conventional folk wisdom, prejudice against sexual minorities may not therefore have much to do with sexual activity at all. There is evidence in, for instance, in religious fundamentalists that are prejudiced against homosexuals even if they are celibate. Together, such finding points in bias against others, especially different others, are seen as substandard and deficient and literally less human. Group X is targeted. Group X is asexual. That's why I used the term Group X. Group X is targeted for its lack of sexual interest, even more than homosexuals, bisexuals, cissexuals, or straight people are targeted in their same sex interests. Get it? Asexuality is a normal position in most conversations with normal people. Deviant people, on the other hand, always sexualize their position in the conversation when they don't have nothing to add to the conversation. We Mgtows and Mgtow monks have been discriminated and biased against by the group by simply calling us monks because we take a normal position on such matters. And this bias has to stop. On one hand, one might expect no evidence of such bias. After all, asexuals do not harm anyone and do not impose themselves on others. In fact, asexuals are a group characterized by the absence of something. But as I stated earlier, humans have a tremendous capability for outgroup dislike. We hear a lot about racial bias in Mgtow, and most of the time it is overblown or overinflated. The real bias that we really have in Mgtow, since the topics are of gender studies, is the bias towards the outgroup. And who is the outgroup? Such as we would look at racial outgroups. Who is the outgroup in Mgtow? Well, it's the person that is labeled like the N-word. In this case, it's the M word, the person that is labeled the monk. Thanks a lot, men, and you take care.